This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. So that's covered off all of the Abonga project, and so we're now going to look at the Dotted Lake project.
Yeah, Dotted Lake, lots going on in Dotted Lake. Dotted Lake's a project area that I put this together for circa 27,000 Canadian dollars or two and a half years ago. And there was nobody around us. It was, you had Palladium One had some ground, probably 15 kilometers to our east as you look at the map. And then you had the Hemlo ground, but everyone was pretty much to our south. Since then, Palladium One have had some remarkable success. Actually, between Palladium One's grounds, we look at where it says Olga Lake area. So you've got a UK company called First Class Metals. They've got a JV on one of their 3 tenements around the Olga Lake area. That actually now borders their land, also borders us at Dotted Lake to the east and to the south. But the success of Palladium One has made Dotted Lake look like a deal of a lifetime, really. And we haven't even started doing what we plan to do. We'll actually be on the ground at Dotted Lake in May of this year, and that's with a view of just firming up our drill permit applications for Dotted Lake.
Okay. So
what you've seen recently in this area to the east, you've got Palladium One have declared a new nickel district, 20-kilometre nickel district. They've made numerous discoveries of high-grade nickel. Those results have been very well received, and to the extent now that Glencore took a strategic stake in Palladium One a couple of weeks ago, and they really are going to work, them guys. Now, the interesting thing about Dotted Lake and Palladium One have made a discovery at a place called West Pickle Lake, and that's on their joint venture ground with the UK company called First Class Metals. That's only 9 kilometres from the border of Dotted Lake. And if you look on the MAG survey, which I'm going to pull this down one mark, This here represents basically what the MAG survey showed, but it's in a more detailed format when you combine it with the soil program that was conducted in the 80s in the area, and that was largely ignored. But that was due to people not understanding what Palladium One have actually understood, because this area wasn't even covered by the Canadian Geological Society. This is how underexplored it was. Palladium One have come along. They've got an exploration model that's proved very successful. And when you then combine that on Dotted Lake with the MAG survey and with the historic data that we've since uncovered, it really does become a compelling story. What Palladium One have done to the east, they've identified anomalies in soil. And when you say anomalies, you talk about nickel, cobalt, copper. And they will drill an area that, if it has a good MAG signature and it's got parts per million of nickel or copper or cobalt or all three, in the 40s and 50s, because that's anomalous for this particular area, they will then drill. And by adopting that process, they've actually made discoveries on almost every single area that they've hit. And they've had like 100% success rate in every area they've drilled under those conditions. But then you come to this particular area of Dotted Lake, which sits in the same rocks and is on pretty much the same systems. And you come to a place that you've got a huge collection of really high grade soils for nickel, copper, and cobalt. In this zone here, you can see that they collect together. You've got grading up to 861 ppm copper. You've got numerous in the 200, 300s, and 700s. Then you've got nickel. The nickel grade in soils goes up to 614, and then you've got plenty 200s and well into the hundreds. And you've got cobalt. And cobalt soil parts per million, you've got a high of just over 200, and there are numerous in the 50s, 80s in this zone. But it's how many there are and how they're all collected into one solid zone. And what you've got here is you've got two different intrusive rocks. So to the south, and it runs, I'm going to try and show you, it runs in this almost a canoe-esque shape down here. And that's actually what they call serpentinite. That's significant because serpentinite is only known in one other area of Ontario, and it's actually mineralized. Mm-hmm. So whilst that isn't a mine, there's an explorer that's working that area as we speak. To the north of the serpentinite, you then run into gabbro rocks. Now, serpentinite and gabbro, they are both intrusive rocks. So that means at some stage, the fluids have broken through the Earth's crust, and this is the point where they've come to surface. But that's also the process that's required to form ore deposits. You need your intrusives, they come up, they form your deposits, and you come along and make your discovery. If only it was that easy. But then to the north, this all butts up against a granite body. And so that would have been that'd be the oldest rocks in this particular area. You've got two intrusives, so you've had two different events. You've got your soil sample anomalies that are exceptionally high, that are really close together as well. It's an absolute textbook scenario for an ore deposit. Why has no one been here before? Well, people have, but they've never drilled. And this is the difference. You can't make discoveries without drilling, Mark. And Dotted Lake would be our number one priority in terms of drilling and moving this forward. Let's say we'll be on boots on the ground in May. I'll certainly be putting some information out on that. We'll actually have some interesting people there as well. You might see one or two tweets of me with some interesting people. And yeah, Dotted Lake is not just liked by us. There is a broader sweep of people that like Dotted Lake. They like what they're seeing. They understand why it's there now. Because people have asked me, well, if this is such a great area, why has nobody ever done this before? You've got to remember that Palladium One developed a whole new exploration program for this area off of their own back over the last 3 or 4 years and have been extremely successful with that. What we're doing is piggybacking on the back of that information. We've got the serpentinite, the gabbro, the contact between the two had never ever been drilled. Noranda did drill in this location in the 90s. They drilled one drill hole in this kind of area, but they drilled the contact between the granite and the gabbro. And as you can see by the nature and flow of these anomalous soils, we suspect it's significant that the contact between the serpentinite and the gabbro was actually probably the place to drill. But listen, we're going to find that out. And we own Dotted Lake 100%. It's got no other financial instrument into it. it's a great property for us and for our shareholders. And putting that together for 27,000, I still maintain could be the best bit of business I've ever done in my entire career.
Okay.
But
Excellent.
we'll find that
and
out.
These anomalous soils, they do give you a lot of confidence then, do they, that there's something there, and you plan to get the drill turning in May?
We won't get the drill turning in May. What we'll do off of the back of the programme in May is get the permit applications in so that we can get there as soon as possible.
Okay.
One thing worth mentioning, actually, we touched on at the very start of the presentation on Ontario, we touched on the marathon and where Generation Mining are going to bring a mine into production in 2024. That is the biggest platinum, palladium, copper deposit currently unmined in North America. Well, on during the marathon deposit was discovered after the lake sediment sample program that I mentioned in the late 1990s, conducted by the Canadian Geological Society. During that program, the two highest copper grades were discovered in the area that is now going to be the Marathon or the Generation Mining's mine that's going to come in production in 2024. The third highest sample in that entire program across the whole of Northern Ontario was actually right here on the southern edge of Lamson Lake. And that was number 3 in that program. So look, everybody's discovered something interesting here, and there's something going on, and we know there is. We've just got to nail down the area and then be getting on with it. But Dotted Lake is well liked. Probably worth just pointing out here, you see on this map, that's the Hemlo mine, and it's approximately 16 kilometres. It's actually a really easy journey. You've got the main highway runs past Hemlo. We actually pulled into the car park there. We're probably on someone's CCTV watch list, but it's about a half hour's drive from Hemlo mine up to Dotted Lake, and that takes those roads take you right onto the property. And finally, in the Panther Metals portfolio, we've got Manitou Lakes. Manitou Lakes is a gold property. Now, you can see on Manitou Lakes, West Limb, Glass Reef, these are historic mines, adits, and the same as the Barker mine, which is the main zone we've been working on. And the adits are where the old timers would find an ore-bearing vein at surface and basically chase it. They would just keep going into the earth and build their mine until it runs dry, and that's what they were. This area is largely unexplored. It hasn't been explored using modern techniques. We've been there. From the Barker mine, we've extended the gold-bearing shear zone over 700 meters to the north. It's still open in all directions, and there's a certain amount of work on the ground needed. But again, the drill permit applications will be put in process, and it's a case of drilling that shear zone as the first step. We need to conduct wider exploration on the property. So it's early stage in some cases, but also it's drill ready in others. And we like Manitou a lot. The Dryden guys, they took over Manitou Gold exploration properties that all sit pretty much to our north in a $7 million cash deal and a year ago. And we really like what we've managed to build here. And it's just going to continue to be developed. Maybe not at the pace that we're hoping for Dotted and Obonga, but it's going to continually be processed to Manitou Lakes. As a junior, we have a remarkable amount of genuine targets that any one of them could be a company changer for us. But as a result of that, we also have to manage what we're doing. There's no point in me smashing the share structure of the business apart to go for all of them in one go. one discovery transforms a company, that brings in the capital and enables us to then go to work across the board. So we've got to cherry pick just a little bit at this time, but there isn't a single property that I would want to lose out of Panther Metals' portfolio. And in fact, here you can see, if you look at the yellow, this is the Manitou Lakes claimed area, and the orange is Manitou Gold's historic exploration properties that they sold to Dryden for $7 million cash in approximately a year ago. So it's a great area. There's mines littering the area and good mines. You've got the Treasury Metals Goliath gold projects, 2 million ounces plus, and then a number of historic smaller ones. It's an exciting area. New Gold Rainy River project's very, very well known in Canada. 3.5 million ounces of gold, 6 million ounces of silver. It's a prospective location. And then we've got our external holdings. We own 36% of Panther Metals Australia. They're currently going through a fundraise, which we won't be partaking in. That will dilute us down, but then they'll be cashed up to go and increase the Coglia nickel cobalt resource. Currently sits at 70.6 million tonnes. It's a nickel laterite deposit, grading about 0.7% nickel plus cobalt credit. I will fully expect this capital they're raising now to take that deposit well north of 100 million tonnes. And at that stage, you're going to have people really set up and take note. And you've got Fulcrum Metals, who they listed on Valentine's Day of this year. Panther owned 20% of the company, where they have the Big Bear project that was Panther's, very, very prospective for gold. They've got other projects in that area, which is why the deal made sense for us and for them. And they're cashed up and ready to go. And I think that Fulcrum could really run this year. I know that they plan to drill Big Bear within the calendar year, and that's what Big Bear's been waiting for. But again, us doing a Big Bear deal with Fulcrum, that enabled us to take on the Manitou Lakes project, which we can't simply take on everything due to the capital constraints of the market. And that's why we did that. And it just made commercial sense all round. And we're very happy with that deal and happy with what Ryan and his team are doing there.
Okay.
And that, Mark, is Panther Metals.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Darren. Good to get a clear idea of where you're going there. So clearly the focus is on Abonga there initially, isn't it? And Manitou Lakes is on hold, really.
Well, Abonga and Dotted.
Abonga and Dotted, yeah.
Fair to say, Mark. And actually, Manitou wouldn't be on hold, but you're not necessarily going to see some of the really exciting stuff on Manitou that you might, with a fair wind, see on the others.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that. Darren Hazelwood, the CEO of Panther Metals.
Thanks, Mark.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on